Another city is considering forcing landlords to pay the unpaid utility debts of tenants. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have another interesting topic for you today, and it's one that I've covered several times before because I absolutely hate this issue, okay? It's basically another city wants to force landlords to pay the unpaid utility debts of tenants. And the reason is pretty simple, right? It's a money grab. It's a money grab from landlords because they figure landlords have money and tenants don't. So these tenants, what they're doing is they're leaving all these utility debts with the city. You know, they have the utilities in their name, and then, you know, with their skipping town or skipping out of their rental unit, not paying their bills, and then the city gets stuck with the debt. So the city, in their, great minds and their great, logic, consider, hey, you know what? We're going to get the landlords to pay it. Okay, so you're going to get somebody else to pay, another person's utility debt. That is dumb, okay? It is so dumb, and it should be illegal, in my opinion, okay? And this is their solution for fixing their tax problem. They're like, oh, well, we could, raise taxes to do this, or we could just dump this bill on top of landlords. Well, here's the issue, okay? That's going to force rental prices to go up. It's also going to make landlords be a lot more strict when it comes to tenant screening and not give those lower income tenants a chance because they realize that, hey, they could get stuck with these giant bills that, these tenants created. It's an absolutely horrible decision, in my opinion. But hey, you know how people who don't operate their own businesses, people who have been politicians or bureaucrats their entire lives, they think they know more about business than they really do. They read some book somewhere and like, oh, yep, I completely understand. But if you broke it down to them like this, hey, your utility bills at your personal home, what if you paid your next door neighbor's utility bill as well? Your next door neighbor didn't pay their utilities, so, we're just going to dump the bill on you. Well, that's essentially what you're doing to landlords. You're forcing me as a landlord to pay the utility bills of someone else, the bills that they accumulated. Okay? And then you're telling me, oh, well, you should just go after them for the debt that's owed. Well, why don't you go after them for the debt that they owe you instead of trying to force me to pay it? You're turning this upside down and trying to make it easier for you and then harder on me. These laws just piss me off, okay? They just anger me. But before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, okay? In the cities where you own rental properties, do you have to pay the utilities for your tenants, or do the tenants pay their own utilities? I know I've asked this question before, but I'm always, interested in hearing these different situations that are going on in different cities throughout the country. I know that these kind of laws, they're all over. They're in the Midwest, they're in the East Coast, the West Coast, everywhere, right? They shouldn't be anywhere. Fortunately, where I invest here in Omaha, Nebraska, and in Independence, Missouri, no such laws exist. Thank goodness. Okay. Anyway, this article is coming from the YakimaHerald.com, and it says, should utility accounts be held by tenants or property owners? Yakima Council debates the question. And I'm not great with pronunciation. I think it's Yakima. If I'm wrong, feel free to, make fun of me in the comment section. City staff members are reviewing a proposed policy that would require utility accounts be held in the property owner's name. Under the change, utility bills will be sent directly to the property owner. Copies of the bills could be sent to the renter or property management company upon request, according to materials presented to the Yakima City Council Tuesday. During discussion, council members raised concerns about communication with property owners and tenants and the effect on the rental market if the change is approved. A March survey by the University of Washington Center for Real Estate Research showed Yakima had an apartment vacancy rate of 4.6%. Currently, Yakima Municipal Code allows for utility accounts to be held in the name of the tenant with some exceptions. Yeah, and this is a horrible idea. It's absolutely horrible, okay? And I've already told you exactly what I think of it. It's garbage, okay? And let me see. The interesting thing about this is that it actually is going to be sending the utility accounts actually have to be held in the property owner's name, not in the name of the property management company, but in the actual property owner. And that they're going to be sending utility bills directly to the property owner. Now, in my case, in my out-of-state rentals that I own, the property management company, I've authorized them as being able to have the utilities in their name, like when I'm doing a tenant turnover or whatever, right? And they are the ones who get the bill and pay the bill in those cases. So, but when there's actually a tenant in there, all of the utilities are in the tenant's name. So I don't like the idea of being a property owner here, in another state and getting some bills, additional bills that I have to pay when I normally have my property management company covering those things. I still have a lot of things to do, even though I have property management that are taking care of the day-to-day operations, the repairs, the leasing, etc. Okay, I still have to take care of all of the mortgage payments. I still have to take care of all of the insurance and make sure that the property taxes are paid on those properties. And I still make decisions on major things that need to be repaired. So I still am doing enough stuff with my rental properties on a day-to-day where I don't want to have to add additional things in there, like making sure that my utilities are paid on a monthly basis. Okay, I had a property in Phoenix, Arizona, where I covered the water and gas bill every month, right? And it was such a pain in the butt, making sure that single utility bill was paid for that fourplex. And I was so glad when I sold that property that all of my new properties and all my other properties, the tenants were in charge of their own utilities, because I hated getting on the City of Phoenix website and paying that freaking bill every month. Sometimes their website was down and, I had all sorts of issues with it, and I was sick of it, Plus, you got to add, the cost of your utilities so that it can be deducted from your taxes, and it was a nightmare, okay? It was just another thing to add on. When you own 16 rental units like I own, it is a pain in the butt. Landlords oppose change. Yakima resident Patricia Horndermis with the Yakima Valley Landlords Association spoke during public comment, saying the organization opposes the policy. She said the change would create an unreasonable burden on housing providers to make sure their tenants receive a bill on time and to keep the account current. Housing providers are growing weary of an atmosphere permeating the rental industry where tenants' rights dominate the housing providers' rights. Housing providers seek a balance, Hohendermis said. This ordinance is another example of tenants not being held responsible for services they have used. And I agree, okay? This comes down to basically, we got to coddle these tenants. We got to, they're too dumb to pay their own utility. Like, grow up. This is the real world. They don't go to property homeowners and say, well, you're too dumb to pay your own utility bill, so we're going to get the mortgage company to take care of it for. No, they don't do that. Okay, the homeowner has to take care of their own utility bill. The renter should have to take care of theirs as well. And that's the way this stuff should go. But what they've done is they've created a situation where the government has given these tenants more rights to a person's property than the landlord themselves has. Okay, the property owner themselves has less rights, and especially in Washington State. Now, I don't know if Yakima is as liberal as like Seattle is, but I just imagine that landlords up there, just from the state rules and regulations, they're really suffering under all of the burdensome bureaucracy that has been put in place. Council member Matt Brown said he was contacted by local property owners with concerns about the billing cycle. The billing cycle is every 2 months, but many property owners are on month-to-month contracts with their renters, he said. Utility Services Manager James Dean said the billing cycle hasn't changed. At this point, it would still be a bi-monthly bill, he said. we could consider going to a monthly bill. He went on to say that the utility changes were discussed at a recent council study session, and his office received no feedback. Brown asked for more communication. A lot of landlords are very concerned about this because they don't feel like they're being included in the process of that, and communication is key, Brown said. Yeah, well, landlords are never considered in the in any of these decision-making processes, okay? What happens is politicians and bureaucrats, they go out, they create these new rules. They don't think about the repercussions of these rules, right? So what exactly happens when a landlord gets stuck with this utility bill, right? Basically, if the tenant isn't able to pay or doesn't want to pay or whatever, the landlord's going to take a loss. So what is a landlord going to do? They're going to increase rents so that they can cover just in case they suffer some of these losses. Not only that, but they're going to increase their screening process. They're going to make it way more difficult for people to rent their units, and that's going to make it so that people have a much harder time finding affordable housing. So yeah, all of the rules, all of the regulations, all of the laws that they pass, right? What it does is it makes it harder and less affordable for tenants to find housing. And that seems to be the opposite of the desired effect that they wanted.